Everyone, first, thank you, Andrea, for the advice. As a startup founder, I think it's actually very valuable advice and very relevant. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. So to introduce myself, for those who are not here this morning, actually, I'm Karim Beguir. I'm the co-founder and CEO of InstaDeep. InstaDeep is an African machine learning startup. And I'm also a Google developer expert in machine learning. So I help Google develop the ecosystem, particularly in Africa. So very excited to be here. It's an honor for me to be here. And my part is going to be more focused on, I would say, our specialized experience as a machine learning startup. So I do not have the breadth of experience that Andrea has, covering different startups. But we're going to give you advice that literally comes from the trenches. So everything you're going to see here is directly related to experiences, good or bad, that we've had. And I think it's very important as we build up machine learning in Africa that we share knowledge and share experiences and basically grow together. So to start with, I want to quickly speak about AI today. You've heard a lot about this, but I really like this slide. So usually I present this slide, and the funny thing actually is, like, I mentioned David Silver because his definition of AI being reinforcement learning and deep learning is very relevant. And I mean, it's the first time actually I'm passing after David Silver. This is to say, so lucky we are collectively to have access to so high quality speakers. I mean, please make the most out of it. It's an exceptional experience. We are over the moon to be here, and so should you. So yes, so David Silver is a good advice, and his presentation was absolutely amazing. So I'll quickly pass about what is reinforcement learning, what is deep learning. By now you should be very knowledgeable about these topics. The key thing I want to point here is these are really breakthrough technologies. The MIT Technology Review identified deep learning in 2013 as a breakthrough tech, and they got it right. That was roughly the time when, on competitions such as ImageNet, with the use of GPUs, new algorithms, deep learning came ahead, and it didn't stop since then. And they nominated RL as a breakthrough technology in 2017. So that's interesting. That tells you that we're still in the action. There is a lot more to come. And if you dig into why it's the case, it's essentially like three combinations: data, GPUs, and specialized computing and hardware, but also progress in algorithms themselves. And this is also important. Like, there's been significant progress in algorithms as we go. And it's the combination of the three which is extremely powerful. So both are actually growing exponentially. So data is doubling, I think, every 2 years. The total amount of data is doubling every 2 years. In hardware computing, Moore's law is pretty famous. Compute power doubles every 10 months. Actually, in AI, it's actually moving faster than this. There was a recent report from OpenAI that the available compute for AI jobs actually doubles every 3 months and a half. So it's absolutely insane, but it's happening. And likewise, exponential growth in the quality and performance of the algorithm. I'll mention a few more on that. So if I take all these and I were to say, like, what is really impressive today, there are two recent developments which are pretty impressive. The first one is OpenAI 5. For you who've been at the David Silver presentation just previously, he's described very well what's happening there. The point I want to make to show you how quickly things are moving. Recently we were speaking about chess and Go as having exponential or explosion in terms of like possible choices. In Go you have up to 250 possible choices at every state. The state space for OpenAI 5, so on the game Dota 2, is very large, 20,000 dimensions, and the number of choices is extremely high also. You have like 1,000 actions roughly at every point in time, and you have to make several ones per second. So this is really like exponential progress. We're talking about progress that happened between, let's say, October last year and August this year. But still, OpenAI 5 has some drawbacks, and one of them is that it's API-based. So the most impressive recent result for me is DeepMind Capture the Flag, and that David spoke about. What is interesting here is that you're really going from pixels, not even using APIs. That's absolutely incredible that AI agents could cooperate and get there. So a lot is happening. But if you look at tomorrow, it's even more crazy, because coming back to this slide, actually AI is going to speed up every component of progress in machine learning. So when it comes to data, AI is now capable of creating high quality data. For example, like it's capable of creating high resolution faces with advanced generative models. So if I ask the audience, which one do you think is fake here? Who thinks it's the woman who is a fake photo? Okay, who thinks it's a man? Okay, both are fake. That's pretty crazy, right? Especially that dude, and frankly, I mean, you tell me this guy is fake is absolutely insane. I mean, it's so accurate. Like, how did the system, build up basically a bunch of computations to go from random numbers into a high quality, this is high resolution image, It's absolutely insane. I mean, even if you're in the business, you still are blown away by these kind of results. But the funny thing, this is not the end of it. This actually was, like end of last year, progressive GANs, because now you can actually do that on video. So I'll try to launch these. These are pretty recent. You might have seen these two. So you're capable of creating videos from pose estimates or segmentation. So I'm putting both of them together. On the left, it's like a wholesale driving video that's being generated. And on the right, you can create like dancing. Everybody dance now. Some of you might have seen this. That gives you a sense of how quickly progress is happening. Yeah? Pretty cool, so I hope they have it at the bottom. So now if we continue, that means that really progress is happening really fast. That was 6 months ago. That was considered like, wow. Now we're at this level of high quality, high resolution videos. That gives you a sense of exponential progress. It's the same thing on GPUs. So on GPUs, you see there, the part on compute, there is fundamental progress that is happening. So this is an experience from the Google Brain team where they showed that if you compare experts on the placement of workloads on GPUs, actually this is beaten by a pure deep reinforcement learning system like David Silver spoke about. That is interesting because that shows you that even on things such as hardware, as placement, a lot of progress is coming. So AI is accelerating AI. That's my message here. Same thing on even the foundations of computer science, like how do you store lists? How do you archive the internet? This is a fantastic result that Jeffrey presented at NIPS, where you can show that basically by having a learnable system, basically a machine learning system learn how to index, you can be 20x lighter. So imagine like at Google's level, if you are needing 20x less storage. That is exponential progress. But perhaps the most exciting thing is AI can now build AI systems. And we'd say that Moore's law is pretty impressive. It doubles at a rate of 2x every 18 months. This is so insane. I have to tell you about this. I mean, this started last year. Basically, at some point, Google came and said, hey, with 800 GPUs and pretty much a month of compute, we're capable of building very advanced models that are really not intuitive. That's the model on the left there. So that's really not intuitive. I have a hard time believing somebody would build that. And that beats pretty much every visual AI model that's been built on, let's say, ImageNet or CIFAR10. But the funny thing is, pretty much like almost 9 months later, they came in and they said, no, we need one GPU for roughly a day or less, for pretty much the same performance. So we're talking about 1,000x speed up in a year. So this is at the core of my message here. Why should you run a machine learning startup? Because it's happening. Like the speed at which these developments are, being, deployed is absolutely astounding. And for sure, there are interesting things happening there. So now to the front, to the core of our lectures. Like, how do you start, a machine learning company, a machine learning startup? So I'm going to be brutally honest with you, and this really comes from experience. The first thing is you have to burn your bridges. The idea that, hey, I have this project, maybe I'm going to launch this startup, at the same time I'm keeping my job on the side, see how it happens, which I call play the option, right? Try to maximize. That does not work. if you're not capable of burning your bridge, don't start a startup. That's my personal experience. Instantly, literally, started the day, I said, you know what, I'm leaving my job in a large company, like boring kind of stuff. That's it, I'm done. I'm going to Africa, I'm back to Tunisia. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I'm not coming back. And I know it, like the day you're out of the rat race, as Andrea said, you're done. You're not going to come back, and they're not going to want you anyway. So, they might, but usually they don't, because the other people in the rat race don't want you back. You say, hey, you had vacation, you're back, what are you talking about? So, that is very important, and this image is like, in Middle Ages and antiquity as well. Like one of the best ways, a commander could motivate his troops is, if he landed with ships, burn the ships. Now, either you win or you die. That's the mentality. And that works, because you guys are smart. So it's all about, are you focused or not? If you have your back on the wall, you're going to be damn focused, because there is no exit. It's not a game, there is no exit. You're there, everybody's laughing at you. I mean, I remember when I started instantly, my friends, they're all in high positions in London, New York, blah, blah. I was one of them. They're like, Kevin, what are you doing? Are you crazy, man? Now they want to work for Instantly. So that's the lesson number one, burn your bridge. If you cannot do it, that's end of story. Do something else. Now, let's say that you're ready, you're committed, you want to do something really exciting, but what should you do? I mean, there are so many things happening. So, try to understand where is your competitive edge. You have a competitive edge somewhere. Every one of us has. Where is it? It's a brutal world out there. Startup is a brutal world. In many ways, it's very often a winner takes all. So it's the red dude running up before everybody else. How can you be that person? You have to understand what is it that is special about you. So try to think about you guys. What is special about you guys? First, well, you are deep learning in Java. That's pretty awesome. So you're likely to have great machine learning skills. And even if you think you're not very advanced, you are talking to the most advanced people in the world, and you're picking up a lot of high quality stuff. So compared to competition, certainly you're very competitive. But that's not the end of it. You have an understanding of where AI is going. I hope the little passage on AI I spoke about shows you how exponential growth is happening. It's not an idea, it's real, and it's happening now. So as a consequence, you have a real idea. Why should you be in machine learning? Well, it's where the action is, and you're pretty good at it, or you could be good at it. So you have probably also a sense of what's missing in your country or in your sector, if you're a specialist or you work in a particular sector. We talked about data this morning. There are missing data. Maybe services are missing. Maybe you want to do something that you've seen in Silicon Valley and which is hot but not arrived to Africa yet. You have a sense of what's missing. You also have, and this is very important, great mentors and great knowledge sources. Indaba is, to me, the most awesome knowledge source I've ever seen in an event which is in a week. So that's an amazing source, and I hope all the lectures and the videos are shared so that you can read them. What David Silver said this afternoon, like the second part, personally I found fascinating. Right? Apparently it's the first time he talks about this. I learned a lot of new stuff. That was cool. And you also have great mentors. Mentors are great resources. You have the very best in the AI world in front of you. Take the chance, go talk to them, go learn something from them. Go ask them advice. Maybe another day you have an idea, tell them what do you think about this. They give you honest feedback. That's what you need. And you probably have passion for anything related to AI, because you need passion in this business. Machine learning moves at effectively a triple exponential rate, which is even accelerated by AI itself. So if you're not passionate, if for you it's like a 9-to-5 job, you're going to be run over by all the other dudes for whom it's a passion and are running much harder. So it has to be a passion. Ask yourself, is it really what you want to do for a living? I have a good test for this, and I applied it to myself. Machine learning, if I was not paid, would I still do stuff? Would I learn? If the answer is yes, that is interesting. You're probably doing the right thing. So try to understand where your competitive edge, and I reassure you, you have a competitive edge somewhere, but you really need to understand. Don't start a project which is boring to you and which you're not qualified. The best project for you is you're competent and you're passionate. If you have these two, it's like magic, it's like superpowers. That's very important. Now, this is one of the lessons of doing a startup. I thought, and probably many of you think, startup is about having the right idea. You know, that's, wow, I thought about this. Like this guy at Uber, he was in Paris and he didn't find a taxi, so he came back to San Francisco and launched Uber. That's the way to go. That's actually wrong. The way to go is to find the right people. Actually, people will beat ideas any day. So what I say is, you have a bad idea, but you have a great team, you have good chances of success. You have an amazing idea and a bad team, 0 chances of success. Why is that? Can somebody tell me why? Anyone? Strange, no?
Good people will update your idea.
Good people?
Your idea will change with good people.
Exactly. The good thing about having a great team is if the idea is crap, we'll quickly realize it and we'll change the idea, and we're a great team, so we'll find something to do and we move and iterate fast. Great idea, bad team, you are sure to fail. The people are going to be fighting, there are going to be problems, etc. So you're sure to fail. Even if you had Uber idea, maybe there were dudes who were doing Uber and they failed and you never heard of them because history only rewards the winners. So focus on the team. I'll share a personal story. Actually, I was convinced we were up to something the day I met my co-founder, Zora. She's a Google developer group leader in Tunisia. She's a woman in tech. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I met Zora, we did some work together, and I had a feeling, hey, we work really well together. And no bullshit, no arguments, no. This is great. I said, Zora, let's do something. She was like, are you mad? We have nothing to do. I said, it's fine, let's get started. I have a good feeling that this could happen. And funny enough, to tell you that the very best actually reward people, we actually made it to the final round of Y Combinator in California at a time where our product was really bad. But still, they took us to the final because we were great people, or they thought so. So, just to tell you, people beat idea any day. That doesn't mean that idea is not important. That means that the fundamental generator of a great idea and multiple great ideas are people. So with people you can generate multiple great ideas, and with a bad team and a great idea you only have one and it's likely to go bad. Because with your first idea, you are 90% likely to fail. If you think you have a great idea, see it as a first iteration. It's highly likely, and Andrea, I think, expressed this point very well, it's highly likely that when you think about it later, what are we thinking? So that is our experience with InstaDeep. It was people-based from day one. And by the way, something specific about machine learning. People really make a difference. This is from practical experience. I have seen some of our young engineers or interns be 20 times more productive than average engineers. When I say 20x, I really mean 20x. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. So don't think that I have a great guy is like twice as better than. It's 20x, and in certain cases people say it's even more. And finally, the other thing we've learned, and this is specific to ML. ML is about passion. You need to work hard, you need to pull on all-nighters very often, etc. So great machine learning engineers, they don't usually focus on money. They're not going to argue with you with salaries a lot. They're going to be either convinced this is a great project, this is fun, we're going to learn, we're going to do crazy things, or they're, I have never seen an amazing machine learning engineer for whom money was the first criteria. Not to say it doesn't matter, but I'm saying it's not the first criteria. So that's a red flag. If you have a fantastic person, but all what he cares about is the negotiation about cash and bonuses, that's a red flag. Because in machine learning, the people know that it's an exponential type situation. So it's all about, is this exciting? Is this a great idea? That's what matters most in our experience. So now that we've looked at the setup, so this is really to start. Now let's think about product and team. And this is my personal experience. And actually it's very funny because sometimes you read stuff about machine learning and reinforcement learning and you're like, hey, this is actually the reality. So that's the Bandit algorithm, and Saba, Spencer, and others. This one. So it's like you're trying several, Bandit arms and seeing like which one is going to yield you the best reward, yeah? And the funny thing about it, it's kind of like that in the beginning. Like you're going to iterate a lot. So if you rush with the first idea, you think this is it, unlikely. So try several things. Allow yourself some exploration. You know the exploration versus exploitation dilemma. I really felt it in startups. So it's funny sometimes how you read about and you learn about machine learning, and life is a bit like that sometimes. So give yourself the time to explore. Don't just exploit the first idea like, yeah, because probably there's something better that you will realize when you talk to clients, or you talk to partners, or you just meet other people. So give yourself a little bit of room for experimentation. We started as a bootstrap. In hindsight, I think that's the best thing that ever happened to us. If from day one I had to, like Andrea said, sell a business plan to an investor and be like, hey, here's $1 million or here's 500, and now I have to do this, none of the amazing things that happened to us at Mr. D would have been possible. Because we effectively, as a bootstrap, allowed us to fail cheaply. When you have a lot of money, you fail expensive, and you are stuck in it. You're stuck, as Andrea said. The guy who put the money, he has a business plan, he has his own investors to justify what he's doing with their money. So you cannot experiment. So be lean, be light. Start something you love and experiment. This work doesn't work, it's okay, I try something else. As long as the team is great and there is the drive, you're going to hit gold at some point. Because there's so much disruption happening in the field of ML. It's just a matter of time and determination. So exploration versus exploitation, that is really true. And this is exactly like the ML loop. Like your agent is your entrepreneur, you try something, the environment tells you it's good or bad, you iterate. And time and again. We kept iterating for years. So really like this speaks to us. And actually, another bonus advice, and it is funny how sometimes theory is actually bang on, yeah? If you read a bit bandit algorithms and exploitation, they tell you that optimistic, initialization is actually very important, that actually being optimistic is a strength, because it effectively allows you to try more things, explore more the environment. Most of the time you're going to be disappointed, but you could be actually positively surprised sometimes. So this is actually very key to an entrepreneur. I think as an entrepreneur you have to be very optimistic, because this will take you further. If you're pessimistic about things, every time you're going to be disappointed, you're going to want to give up. And as an entrepreneur, you should not give up if fundamentally you're after something that could have value. So be optimistic, actually it helps. So you have to be very optimistic sometimes to sustain it for years, sometimes with negative feedback, with people not going your way, but still believe there's something out there until you find that thing. So it's in a funny way, actually, machine learning theory, bandit algorithm theory is very relevant to entrepreneurship. Okay, so that's the way to iterate and find ultimately a good product. Okay, now let's talk about the team, because you might be highly motivated, but that doesn't necessarily make a great machine learning startup. How do you build a great machine learning team? It's actually a chicken and egg situation. Like, to have a great machine learning team, you need to be a great machine learning startup. People want to come because you're already there, wow, it's exciting that. But it's the other way also. You need to be a great machine learning startup, you need to have a great ML team. So how do you break the chicken and egg situation? That happened to me. How do you do that? You're not going to attract people from, the elite of machine learning just because they believe in your business plan. That's not going to happen. So the solution I have found is to build myself into a machine learning researcher expert again. So to break that negative loop or that chicken and egg loop, become the expert. And this is very relevant to you in particular. You can be the expert. If you're really, really good at it, or if you really, really want, you're going to get there. I'll tell you something very personal. I started learning machine learning from zero 3-4 years ago. And everything I've learned over this course. I was doing neural networks almost 20 years ago, then forgot completely about it, and came back to it. I had a hunger to learn again, and here we go. So that's the way you break the cycle. Because once you know what you're talking about, and all of you can do this. Once you know what you're talking about, you are hired very wisely. Lots of startups fail because the founders are not technical enough, and so bogus people can tell them that they're amazing technology guys or researchers, and they're going to believe it, or just, you have a PhD in machine learning, so you must be good. I'll share with you a secret. At InstaDeep, we have PhDs. We love PhDs. But we also have interns that have nothing to do with machine learning, but we felt the potential in them. We felt they could do it. They built things that were awesome. I had a case with a guy, he actually was a nurse. Believe it or not, he was a nurse, except the guy recoded VGG from zero and had all these crazy ideas. I was like, this guy is fantastic. I'm taking him. And he turned out to be one of the best hires we've ever had. So by building yourself into a machine learning expert, you do not need titles. You can look for quality for what it is. Of course, some PhDs are exceptional people, but you'll recognize them for their value, not for the title. And that's important, because in startup, everything matters, and you don't have time to experiment things that fail. And by the way, the reward feedback is very quick. If you make a mistake, you'll realize quickly, but you wasted time and resources and etc. So if you become an expert, and all of you can be an expert in machine learning, to the point where you can hire wisely, that's a great plus. And then you don't need to hire experts. Hire high potential people, interns, motivated people, nurses, whoever you want, and build them into experts. It works. Actually, in today's world, it works, and there's a very good reason why it works. The half-life of AI knowledge is probably 2 years, in my opinion. So if you have a guy who's an expert for 20 years, most of his experience is irrelevant. So believe more in the ability of people. But what I'm saying is, it's moving at such a speed that the really key thing is to understand what is happening and understand where things are going and build up your own experience and hire people directly from their capability rather than their title. And great resources that we found on the way. I mean, you have all the online classes that all you know. There are 2 books in particular I want to mention because they are amazing. The first one is Deep Learning from Goodfellow, which, funnily enough, starts very easy and ends up, much more advanced than it started. So, every chapter is grows exponentially in complexity. So, one of their interview tricks is have you read the Goodfellow? People usually say yes, yes. Okay, so tell me what happens at chapter 17. Because the end of it is much harder than the beginning, so that's a good introduction. And then if you dig further, there's reinforcement learning from Richard Sutton, which is an awesome resource. And by the way, these 2 are actually available for free. You can download the PDF. So what we do at InstaDeep is we print the PDF, we bind it, and we hand it to our new hires as one of the first reading assignments. Incredibly, a lot of what is needed is actually contained in these 2 books. So that's a useful one. Finally, there is a lot of hype about AI. How do you really know if your team is good or not? Kaggle competitions is a good one. It's not a perfect, kind of evaluation because you can ensemble models, you can do all sorts of stuff that improves. But fundamentally, if somebody is competitive at Kaggle, it's a signal among others that you're up to something. So that's been our experience. Just to share with you some of the things that personally surprised me. Right now, in a Google Cloud competition out of 850 teams, our InstaDeep training team, and the guys are here, is ranked number 2. That surprised me. I didn't think that they would be that competitive. And I never believed that one day we'll be able to publish, invent, new approaches in AI and publish. And this is one of the biggest surprises that I've had through this. So my message is, believe in yourself. You can actually do it, that is, you can go a lot further than you ever thought possible if you really love what you do and you have, of course, some competence. Obviously, having programming or applied mathematics background is of a lot of help. But really, you could go much, much further than you ever thought. And today I was blown away. Actually, David Silver mentioned that article that we published a month ago, and Nando actually tweeted about it. If you had told me a year ago that any of this would have been possible, I would have never believed you. I would have given less than 5% probability. So my message is, believe in yourself. There is a lot of amazing information out there. You have access to the best mentors in the world at deep learning in Dava. This is a unique opportunity for you. Make sure you make the best of it. And if you make the best of it, you can actually build a great team. and get going. So, learning is not everything. Andrea touched about culture. I'll share some of the experiences we've had on the cultural side. Collaboration is key in AI. I mean, we all love to say, okay, yes, collaboration is great, you know, like if you go to all the corporate values of like, because collaboration, blah, blah, it's like, wow, you know. I'll tell you, there's a very good reason why collaboration is so important beyond being good karma. Like, to really make a difference in AI today, you need a large team. You need people who are specialists of like high-performance computing, scaling up, workloads. You need people who have a thing for inventing new algorithms. You even need people who are good at visualization. Some of the recent, AI progress is based on the fact that you're capable of modeling environments, of linking those environments to a machine learning agent. So all in all, these are large teams. So collaboration is key. I personally don't believe that we're going to see a lot of breakthrough from one guy hidden somewhere. It's the work of large teams collaborating together, sharing best practices, and making sure everybody plays on his time. That's been our experience. Performance. Really, my message is learn and aim for the top. Do not believe that you cannot do it. If you really believe you can do it, you're probably half the way there. So I think most of you at Indaba are convinced you're having access to the very best people in the AI world, but really like break that mental threshold that tells you, no, this is too advanced for me, etc. Go online, read the DeepMind papers, read the OpenAI papers, look at what Google Brain is doing, look at Facebook AI, what Facebook AI is doing. Try to understand. If it's hard, learn more and come back to it. Have that hunger for knowledge. This is actually critical for success. And you have to push that intensity on your team. This is very specific to machine learning. But push that intensity on your team. You tell them, guys, okay, this is, for example, a DeepMind paper. Okay, you have a month, I want the implementation, and you find a way. I don't care. You've never done it? I won't do it. If you are with the right, passionate group of people, they're actually going to love that. They're going to see that as like, wow. And the day they do it, you see the smile on their faces. They've broken the most important psychological barrier. And this is how progressively you build a great team. So diversity of background is very important. I mean, this is pretty obvious. We found that it improves performance also. It's very clear. At Institute we have great, women AI researchers. My co-founder is a woman. We even have fantastic people. We have one handicapped guy in the Tunis office. He literally coded with one hand. And the guy has such a drive and such a determination. He is one of our best. So actually sometimes people who come from a difficult background or have a handicap have that hunger, which is more than compensating for the handicap. We've experienced this. So every time you see someone who's not exactly the person you were expecting or different background, see it as a chance. Probably you're going to learn something working with that person. So that's been an experience. Mentality of abundance is very important. I mean, things are growing exponentially, so don't be cheap. For example, at Sandeep, we made a huge effort to bring most of our team who did the AI research to this conference. We're a small AI startup, costs us a lot, but make that extra effort. It makes everybody happy. It makes you happy. And in the end, they'll be more productive. So it's a win-win, actually. So never be stingy with your team. Have that culture of abundance is very important. We also believe in open source. And this is a question I've had even today. People ask me like, why are you publishing this paper? You could have kept it for yourself, done something, etc., etc. I'll tell you why, because by sharing, you also learn stuff. Your team will have more interactions. You're going to have good positive feedback from people. Incredible things could happen. Like today, a lot of incredible things happen to us. So in the end, by being open and good karma, in an exponentially growing situation like AI, in a positive sum game, you actually come on top. And you have the benefit of having contributed to the ecosystem. So we strongly believe in that at Instagram, and we don't see any reason to change our habits. And ultimately, AI moves very quickly. What is hot today is going to be completely, outperformed in 6 months. So it's not necessarily the exact innovation you did today that matters. It's your ability to constantly innovate, your ability to constantly challenge yourself. That's the real value, and that comes from having a great team. That enables you to build amazing products, bring that outperformance to your customers. That is what we care about. So we're very cool about sharing, and we hope to promote that, open kind of culture. We think that everybody wins. Giving back, teaching, mentoring, we're very big into this. I've learned a lot actually by being at Launchpad Accelerator Africa for Google twice. It woken me up to the opportunity in Africa, much more than I ever believed, even though I left everything to come back to launch a startup in Africa. When you see the quality of the people you meet in the process, it emboldens you more. You do more. So I always have that culture of giving back. It's good karma. And finally, creativity. In AI, you need to have fun. So I'll show you a fun project. We actually generated some African art. So what you see here is actually using generative adversarial networks to create African art. We have an artist in the team. We love that vibe of like trying some fun stuff, And we find that it really makes you smile sometimes, makes you happy about what you do. So actually, some of those I think would pass the Turing test. Not all, but we've used on this one progressive GAN for the ones who know. And we thought it gives pretty cool stuff. So I always have that creative vibe about what you do. So data. ML startup. You have lots of AI technologies, and you have a hammer, and you're looking for a nail to hit. You're looking for where's that data. So how should you build a data set? And obviously, there was a very interesting conversation this morning for the people who are at the, AI in Africa panel about data, how is data available? Should I be compensated by data? How can I get data? So as a machine learning startup, this is some advice. You can do a lot, even with a little bit of data. So for example, if you're trying to solve, trying to build a visual AI, per level, probably 200 pictures of a given level is enough. You have lots of data augmentation techniques that are available online for free. So from one picture, and I don't know, if you're trying to recognize a box of Pringles, for example, well, if you rotate it, it's still a box of Pringles, so you can do all sorts of transformations and domain invariant, operations on the data. It's still the same level. So that's augmented data. But interestingly, simulated data is also happening. And synthetic data. So you've seen the previous example of what NVIDIA did to create basically self-driving car data. And they can actually create, they film the road once, they segment what they have, and they can create new scenarios. There is snow, there are trees, all sorts of stuff. So you create diversity in your data set. That's pretty impressive. Something interesting happening recently is AI at the edge. This is fairly recent, but now you can actually put an AI, like a chip, on a camera, runs it for a year. So the AI is running all the time, so it's recognizing, for example, things, or it's counting the number of fruits in a garden or whatever. It can run for a year without battery and without internet. And you can get it to send metadata. For example, you have cattle, and you could actually monitor the cattle live continuously, very inexpensively. So you can actually build data sets, and I think this is useful advice for Africa. You can actually build data sets at a price which was impossible before. Finally, there is this notion of homomorphic encryption, which I mentioned briefly, talked about earlier, which is very important because you can effectively train machine learning on encrypted data. So people, you don't see their data, they don't see your model, and you can compensate them with smart contracts. These are the kind of business models that could be very powerful in the future. Andrew Trask, actually, is one of the leads, and OpenMind is really an awesome project. I think he does some work with DeepMind also. So I think there is a lot, and you should follow that scene. Don't have too much time, so I'll try to go quick. And indeed, it's about momentum. So momentum is probably the most important resource you have as a startup. It's all about momentum. I love this, advice from George Patton, the best general of World War II, the best American general of World War II. He said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. And it is so true in startup world in general, but it's even more true in a triple exponential like the AI and machine learning world. So be fast. You have problems, the clients are not happy, the investors are complaining, the employees want to quit. You have product deadline, what's the solution? Momentum. You move faster, The guy who was about to leave, he says, Jesus, it's happening here. I'm staying. Really? That's actually momentum. It's, you know, people will stay with you even if the salaries are not amazing because they feel this is where it's happening. Same thing with investors. They will have a fear of missing out. They say, no, I'm not going to turn. These guys are moving so fast. They told me this. 3 months later, they're more advanced than even what they sold me. I'm staying, you know? Things like that. So momentum. How to build momentum? Find your positive loop. There are positive loops out there. One of the most famous is, I build a product, I get some users, the users create data which improves the product, and so on, you iterate. That's one of the famous loops. Other loops are about hiring. Like, if you're doing great stuff and getting great visibility, great feedback from customers, that's going to create more business opportunities and it's going to incentivize people to come to you because they see you doing good stuff, but because the good people come, you become better and the products get better, and it's a loop. Find your positive loop. That's how you build momentum even without money as a startup. You can build a machine learning model in 1 day. That's a great way to get momentum. There's this fantastic thing called AutoML, which is available on the Google Cloud. It actually builds the AI model for you. So you don't even need to be an expert in machine learning. If you still learn, you could still have a minimum viable product. By the way, AutoML has been nominated as the 2018 technology breakthrough. Didn't ask me, we talked about 2017. 2018 is AutoML and I think GANs as well. Other ways to accelerate, well, accelerators themselves. I mentor at Google Launchpad Africa. It's a fantastic place to promote African startups. I've seen it in action, I've been twice there. I'm blown away by the quality of the tech scene that is growing in Africa. In machine learning in particular, I would love to see more. I haven't seen lots and lots of machine learning startups in Africa, or people who we would say are AI first. So this is your opportunity. So you can say it. There are other programs. Andrea said that the amount of funding which is available in Africa is exceptional. This is a fantastic opportunity for you. So, Y Combinator, Savannah Fund, there are so many of them. Yeah. Second and 10th advice is mentors. Mentors are a great way to accelerate. Along your journey, if you're doing things with love, with passion, you'll find amazing people on your way. That's what happened to us. These people will feed you knowledge, they'll feed you introductions, they'll make things happen that you thought impossible. So in particular, I want to thank Anyedi Udo, who is the Google ecosystem manager of Sub-Saharan Africa, an amazing person, helping so many get jobs in Lagos and beyond. Fola, who runs Launchpad Africa, Sunson, who's the head of machine learning globally, MLGDs, and of course, special thanks to Shakir. Really, the work he's doing and the opportunity he's giving you through his sheer passion, and trust me, it's a lot of hard work for him and the deep learning in Daba. That's really, for me, worth an applause. So, yeah, cheers. Now, I finish very quickly because we don't have time and I want to leave time for Blaise, who came from Silicon Valley. Why is this all important? There is this great book, Life 3.0 from Max Tegmark, who has the unusual combination of being a great physicist and a great, AI engineer. So the question is like, okay, there's hype now, blah, 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 but is this going to die tomorrow? Or maybe Moore's Law, a lot of people say Moore's Law is maybe it's going to change at some point. If you really look at the fundamental limits of reality, of physics as we understand them, with a combination of general relativity on a macro level and, quantum physics at a micro, actually, computation has still grown 10 to the power 30 to 10 to the power 40. This is enormous. It's like doing Moore's Law for another 200 years. So, of course, maybe things will change, It won't be silicon. We had a great conversation with Dando about, quantum machine learning, which is still some way off. But the fundamental limits are so far. Same thing with memory. Same thing with energy. So you have to be in AI, because there is no fundamental reason why this is going to stop. If anything, it's going to accelerate. This was also the message of David Silver when he was saying, don't use your belief. Use the data, use everything you know in a rational way. What we know in a rational way with today's knowledge is that this is going to go for a long time. So that is a great book, by the way. So you should be in AI. And AI is really important for Africa, because it's both a threat and opportunity. It's a threat because the old business models of oil and gas, of cheap human labor, those are going to be replaced by smart machines, smart energy. So you have to embrace the future. The good news, AI is a massive opportunity because the barrier of entry is really your curiosity and willpower. If you really believe you can do it and you work hard, you will get there. And it's mostly a software technology. So the limits of physical goods trading in Africa are somewhat less applicable. So as a software business, you can thrive in Africa. There are lots of opportunities ahead. I mean, Mustafa has told about awesome work they're doing, launching the Google Research Center in Ghana. There is a Master of Machine Intelligence. So really for us, the question is, can an African machine learning startup also help to that? That's what we're trying to do at InstaDeep. Showcase that this is also work done by Africans, that African machine learning can raise with the help and support of the giants, but that, startups from Africa in machine learning can be competitive. That's the key message I want to send, and it's actually possible today. So to conclude, because we don't have time, AI is already delivering lots of results, but perhaps more importantly, AI is accelerating. The key components why AI is accelerating, data, compute, better algorithms, are being even accelerated by AI itself. So it's this crazy triple exponential which is happening in front of our eyes. And you are probably more aware of this, but I cannot emphasize how important is this. So you have to be part of it. And by the way, everything we know about reality tells us that this is not going to stop anytime soon. So if you want to launch an ML startup, or if you want to be a great ML engineer, or join a company that exists, probably one of the best decisions you could make today, because ML is there to stay. There could be hypes, different hype cycles in funding, but the fundamental reality is that this technology is there to stay. And so to conclude, there are 10 steps that we described to start and sustain and develop a machine learning startup. Both are accessible to you, and I say particularly to you here at Deep Learning in Daba. So make sure you seize those opportunities. And remember, the AI in Africa opportunity is now. So go for it. Join a team, build your team, make some difference. Everything that matters is built, in my opinion, bottoms up. So be part of the solution and always be optimistic. If anything, what you can achieve can be much, much higher than you ever thought possible. So 5 years down the road, it was probably the best decision I've had made, just to leave London and New York and go for it, even if I had no idea. So don't be afraid of the unknown. You are highly capable, and if you are smart and work hard, at some point you'll be successful. Thank you.
And come here. So that's why I then sent in kind of an email saying, well, is there any way I can sneak in? Well, and here I am. The prize was that I have to present. So bear with me. So my name is Andrea Bowman. I am a partner at a South African venture capital company called Knife Capital. If you want to know why we are calling ourselves Knife Capital, which is a bit of an edgy name for a VC, you can talk to me afterwards when we have the party in the evening. I'll tell you all about it. But the reason why I kind of chose this picture is because that's actually really what venture capital is all about. It's definitely not a straight journey. It's fast, it's awesome, it's exciting. You have no idea what's around the corner, and if you fall fast and deep, and it's a crash. So that's the life that you have to kind of go and enjoy. So maybe just quickly, who am I? Why am I here? I mean, I do have 24 years of working experience. Out of this, 8 years in a corporate, 2 different ones. One was awesome, one was terrible. Then I became an entrepreneur myself, and then for the last 12 years, I've been investing in entrepreneurs. Been in venture capital. The number of 2,000 business plans, it might actually be 3,000. I have no idea by now. How many business plans I've seen, how many business plan competitions I've judged. I've invested so far in 15 companies, some fantastic successes and some very spectacular failures. So I think I've been there, done it, and it's definitely been a very, very interesting journey so far. So in the beginning I was told to really go and talk about how to go and start a business and maybe how to go and raise funding. But then yesterday somebody contacted me and said, well, can you please also include maybe 2-3 minutes about should you go and join a startup? or should you kind of go and join a corporate? Because I've been I know a lot of you are actually students, and you have to make some very, very interesting decisions. I mean, the fact itself that you are here means that you have a lot of choices, a lot of options. And it's an interesting one, what you're going to go and do next. Now, also to make it very, very clear, declare it openly, I'm very biased. While I have worked for corporates and I had one amazing experience, I'm definitely trying to kind of go and convince you to either start your own business or at least join one of those amazing startups and not necessarily go and start working for one of those boring but safe companies. So I declare my bias right from the start. So just bear with me. There's about 2 slides about a little bit about startup versus corporate, and then we can go and get into it. I mean, I think it's quite clear. If you want to kind of go and join a startup, on the one hand, small companies, a lot of excitement, a lot of things, you can influence far more. So it's a lot of most likely like-minded, similar age kind of people, and what you do, because it's a small team, will really, really matter. These are those great things about joining a startup. But of course, there is the other side. If you join a startup, there is risk, there's unpredictability. They will most likely not be able to kind of go and pay you the salary that a big corporate could kind of go and do. You will have to multitask. You will have to do a lot of different things. You can't just kind of go and specialize on one thing. It might actually be that the startup fails. So you need to go and have that very, very specific kind of risk appetite to go and do this. And in those cases where you've got parents who actually still have a say, well, they might tell you that you are absolutely crazy. That after all those years of studying, now it's time to go and make big bucks and don't go and go and join a startup. So if so, then you have to really kind of go and have the right arguments. If I wanted to go and be very, very negative, then I would say it's those 2 things that you have to go and choose between. In the corporate, it's the rat race, that's what you are. Startup, it's just a long and hard journey, pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. Well, that of course is the negative side. But if I can really give you one big advice, if you are considering joining a corporate, actually considering whatever kind of company you want to go and join, go there at 7:30 in the morning and watch how people arrive for work. We call it the speed of climbing stairs index, because it tells you everything about a company culture. If you kind of go and see in the morning at 7:30, people arriving at work like this. They don't greet anybody. They get their coffee without really talking to anybody. Well, then think about it. That's going to be you in a year's time or in 2. If that's what you like, perfect. If not, it might not be the company for you. What I'm kind of saying is, you really need to decide what kind of company culture you want to kind of go and join. If you can go and see a company where people arrive in the morning, they greet each other, they smile, they laugh, you can see they're looking forward to coming to work. It doesn't matter whether it's a startup or whether it's a corporate, then you might be at the right place. If the people who are actually there, you can see they're coming there only to go and work, to make a salary. That's the only reason. Well, think twice if you really want to kind of go and join that business. So I think that is the one thing that you should really kind of go and do as a little bit of a homework, whatever you kind of go and decide to do next. Okay, but now let's try to convince you that actually entrepreneurship is what you should be doing, because that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, you actually have 2 choices. You can be an entrepreneur, you can work for one. You need to kind of go and think about it. Because even the mighty Google one day was a startup. So you need to kind of go and think about how you want to kind of go and position yourselves. And it actually is all about your risk appetite. Well, what is the definition of an entrepreneur? It really is an individual who, rather than working as an employee, starts and runs. So it's not just about the starting. Also runs a business and assumes all risks and rewards. And that's actually the last part. That's actually the big difference. Because if you join another company, if you join, even a startup, if you join a corporate, if things are not going too badly, not going too well, it doesn't matter. You will still get your salary. It won't kind of affect you that much. But if you are the entrepreneur, you are the last one to take a salary. You are the one who has to go and save it all the time. You have to put in the all-nighters. You have to kind of go and do it. You have to take all the risks. And yes, of course, you're also getting all the rewards. Well, it all kind of works well, fantastic. It's absolutely perfect. Again, if you work for somebody else, well, you get a 13th check or something like this, but the rewards are different to as if you are the owner. So you need to kind of go and decide, what is your risk appetite? Because that's actually what it really is all about. Now, I wish being an entrepreneur was like that. Sounds good, but I don't know. And I even more wish it was like that. Just this fantastic life on the beach, kind of going, sitting there, you can be an entrepreneur, and this life is absolutely fantastic. And the two speakers afterwards can tell me afterwards how they experienced, whether that was their life or is their life, and if so, then join their company. That's all I can say. That would be absolutely perfect. But at the end, you really need to decide, first of all, what is your risk appetite? And there is no right and there is no wrong. You are who you are. You just have to kind of go and kind of make up your mind. So if you like security, if this is something that you need, if you want a stable salary, you don't want any kind of risks, you like a structured work life, you like to know it starts at 8, it finishes at 5 or 6, then you can go home, you can go and switch off, you can have lots of hobbies, you want to have lots of hobbies. If you want to be an absolute specialist, if you want consistent routine, then the typical corporate is perfect for you. Naturally, there are others, and there's some amazing kind of other companies where it's slightly different. But that's the typical profile of an employee. And if that's who you are, brilliant. I mean, there are some great companies out there, and there's really nothing wrong with it. But then you're not an entrepreneur. If, on the other hand, you can live with the fact that you can live with the fact that you can afford sometimes not taking a salary. You know you are always the last one. You have no hobbies because you are just working 24 hours. Your business is your life. If you understand that you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for HR, for finance, for sales, for marketing, for tech, for everything. You can't just go and hide away and delegate it to somebody else. And if the printer doesn't work, you're also responsible for that. So if you can kind of go and understand all of this, and if you understand a real hectic schedule where when things go wrong, you just have to firefight, and you can't hide behind anybody. But if that kind of adrenaline, if that actually makes you tick, well, then you are an entrepreneur. So half of you should kind of go and get up now and say, okay, this is all about entrepreneurship, then let me kind of go and leave. But I think if you are the wrong personality and you're doing the wrong things, whatever it is, you won't enjoy it. So be honest to yourself and decide what it is. But now, let's get to this, well, how to start a business. What are the kind of things that you should first go and start thinking about? If you have seen as many business plans as I have seen, a lot of people come and they show me an app. And the app does something. The issue is, you need to find a real problem. A pain in somebody's life. And then develop a solution, solve it. Don't come up with some kind of a solution, then desperately try to go and find the problem. So you really need to kind of go and look at it. If there is a problem and you can solve it, then it's the right start. The next one, validate the solution. Really, and validate it with real customers. Don't go to your parents or don't go to your friends and say, what do you think about it? Because they will tell you, it's perfect, it's great, it's fantastic. So often we actually go and find entrepreneurs coming to us and they never actually spoke to a client, a potential client. They never actually really try to figure out if what they want to kind of go and do is something that somebody else would actually kind of go and pay money for. It's really solving a real problem. Understand the business model. How can you monetize it? How can you make money? Because even if you found a real problem, you build a solution, and you get confirmation that it's a real problem, and your potential customers kind of admit this, you need to find out, will they pay for it? And how much will they pay for it? And can you kind of go and build it and deliver it for the amount of money that they want to kind of go and pay for it? This build it and they will come, and I will somehow find ways to monetize it. It happens once or twice, and you can see it on TechCrunch, but that's not the real world. So you need to really kind of go and find out how can you kind of go and make money out of this. The next big thing that you have to kind of go and really pay attention to is you need to build a diverse team. If you kind of go and build a team and you only have accountants in there, everything will be looked at from an accounting point of view. If you build a team with only lawyers, everything will be looked at from a lawyer's point of view. The point is, if you want to build a business, you need somebody who, of course, understands technology, but you also need someone who understands finance. You need someone who can actually sell, who can market, somebody who can deal with people. So try from day one to build a team surround yourself with people who have different skills in different areas. Because if you really want to go and build a business, that's absolutely, absolutely critical. So it's something that we find so often, particularly with highly technical founder teams. The guys are all quite often studied together, they're all the same, they're all highly technical. The next few hires are, again, highly technical, and it takes ages for them to kind of go and start allowing somebody with a slightly different skill set into their business. And then it becomes a culture issue. So try to kind of go and entrench this right from the start. And then understand, how do you finance the start? Can you afford for the first 6, 12 months to not earn a salary? How can you kind of go and get the first money to go and really start whatever you need as initial equipment? You might say, we can work from our garage or from my bedroom or something like this. You might not need an office, but still, there are certain startup costs, definitely your living expenses, and you need to understand how can you go and do this and for how long can you last. Because it will take you some time to build the solution, and it will take some time until the first customer is actually really going to prepare to kind of go and pay for it, or until you've raised money to kind of go and do it. So you need to go and have a clear idea, and just believe me, if you only have money for 3 months, it's not going to be enough. You need quite a bit more. Now, one of the ways to kind of go and start it is actually by, while you're building a solution, while you're building something, to go and consult on the side. That's how most businesses kind of go and start. You spend some of your time consulting for something, that's how you earn some money, while doing the other time kind of go and start developing. The problem is that you might very, very quickly fall into the consulting trap. Because once you kind of go and get in there, your customers start screaming, your customers want something done by tomorrow. You don't find enough time to actually go and start spending time on what you really want to do, and that is building the product. And more, you actually kind of go and get sucked into this consulting business, which, if that's what you want to kind of go and do it, have a consulting business. Again, that's perfect. But if that's not what you wanted to do, and you're just using consulting to kind of go and pay the bills, at some stage you need to become very, very disciplined and understand when to kind of go and stop it, and to make sure that you have enough time allocated to go and do this. So, from an initial point of view, you really need to go and spend a lot of time trying to go and balance all the things and have answers to all of this. But you can talk yourself into and out of everything. At the end, if you're passionate about it, if you have answers to all those kind of questions that I just mentioned, just do it. Kind of go and try it. I can tell you, if you have started a business, you've done it for 1 or 2 years, even if it fails, it's not going to look bad on your CV. It's not something that people will later on kind of look at you and say, ooh, look at him, look at her. Started a business and it didn't work. It's an absolutely, absolutely amazing experience. So while you can afford it, while you can kind of go and do it, while you don't have 3 houses to pay off and 5 children to feed and so on, really think about it. It's an amazing experience, and it will teach you so much about even how to go and get on in whatever kind of other challenge you kind of go and do. So I really, really want to kind of go and encourage you if you have the passion for it, if you have the right idea that solves the problem, go and do it. Now, this is a report, or the picture from a report that was published a few weeks ago, and it talks about the amount of investments that were done just in the first half of 2018. So if you live in my world, where it's really about kind of investments, never ever before have there been so many investments across Africa in relatively early stage companies. So at the moment, it is pretty incredible how much money there is, and of course, it's very little in comparison to the US and so on, but in comparison to previous years, there's a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of investments are made. And to my big surprise, it's actually not happening in South Africa. If you look at this, these are the deals, the early stage deals that were done in the first 6 months. It's Nigeria, it's Kenya, it's Egypt. Well, South Africa, there are also few, but actually much less. And what's also quite nice to see is that more and more early stage deals get done. So the big issue is, across Africa, there is money. The money is being invested in early stage technology, and not just in South Africa, across a lot of kind of countries. More and more accelerators, more and more grant money. Everybody understands that we need to kind of go and encourage entrepreneurship and go and do things. A lot of seed funding. So the time to go and start a business from a access to funding point of view, while it's still not optimal, while there's still not enough seed funding, but things are getting much better. So from that point of view, I think it is encouraging. And if you kind of go and look at the amounts, I was actually quite surprised. They're actually starting to be quite decent amounts. And again, none of them happening in South Africa. The one investment that we did actually into AI company would just go and come just here, just underneath kind of that, but didn't even crack the node there. So still, it is quite encouraging. However, what is interesting from my point of view to kind of go and see is that those investors are actually, hardly any of them are African investors. So it actually is the international guys who are kind of coming into Africa and making investment. And I think that is, for our industry, something we need to kind of go and look at. So our biggest competitors nowadays are not, my biggest competitor is not the other local funds. It's actually the international guys who can kind of go and come up with a kind of dollar amounts and can go and pay much bigger check sizes. Okay, so while all of this is encouraging, so there is more money, deals are definitely being done, let's talk about some of those disturbing facts. So investors on average invest in less than 1% of the deals that approach them. Actually, normally it's 1 out of 200. The biggest reason for this is that 75% of all deals that we see fall outside of our investment mandate. And that is where a big problem comes. And that is that entrepreneurs quite often don't understand that investors have a very specific mandate. They kind of don't go and check out those mandates. So they approach investors and actually cannot go and invest in them. In our case, for example, we only invest in companies that require between, in rand terms, it's between 5 million rand and 50 million rand. Or if it goes in dollars, it's, say, 500,000, which is giving the exchange rate a bit optimistic, but let's say 500,000 and 5 million kind of dollars. So if somebody wants 2 million rand, I can't invest. If somebody needs 80 million rand, I can't invest. We only invest, for example, in companies that are post-revenue, meaning you have at least 1 cent of money that you got from a customer. So if you are pre-revenue, we cannot invest. Now, we get a lot of approaches from companies who are pre-revenue. So if those entrepreneurs would have gone to our website, they would know this. So if you want to kind of go and ever raise money from an investor, please make sure that you've really checked out their investment mandate. Because, I mean, I feel quite serious. 75% of all entrepreneurs who approach us get an immediate no. It doesn't matter how good or bad their business plan actually is, or whatever they want to kind of send. They get a no, because it falls outside. And we all know nobody likes to kind of go and hear a no. So it's about those things. And then at the end, it comes down to a lot of other things. Does it fall within an area that we, for example, understand? Are we passionate about this? And so on. And I get to in general, what do investors look for just now? But the big point is investors in general, and it's whether it's now in the US in Silicon Valley or whether it's here in South Africa. We normally only invest in about 1 or even less than 1% of companies that really approach them. So we have to go and kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince. It really is like this. Because of this mandate, what you have to offer, it doesn't matter how good it is, will only be of interest to a very small amount of investors. And you need to find them. So some companies only do e-commerce. Others only do green economy. The other ones do whatever. So you need to kind of go and find where is the match. That's if you can kind of go and find the right match, your chances immediately kind of go and increase. So just understand that while there might be a list of 50 investors somewhere on some kind of a database, out of those 50, there will only be about 5 who actually really are of any interest for you. Another one that is quite a hard discussion to go and have often with entrepreneurs is that being good is simply not good enough. And that is linked to good product versus good business versus good investment. So you might come up with the most amazing solution, algorithm, what fancy product that can do whatever. But this is a product, and it might be a brilliant product, but maybe it does cost just simply too much. So the problem is you can never turn it into a good business. So we see a lot of, particularly from a university point of view, we see a lot of people coming to us with fantastic products, and they say, look what it can do and it can solve all those problems, but they haven't created a business around it. And so that you can't create a real business about it. So therefore, that's not good. Then we find people who actually have built a good business, quite often profitable, and they can really kind of go and have a great lifestyle business out of it. But it's not a good investment, meaning that if I kind of go and put money in, I can't get 10 times my money out in a period of 5 or 6 years' time. So therefore, it's for the entrepreneur a very, very good business, but it's not a good investment. Now, investors can only go and invest in good investments. Now, it's very, very hard to kind of go to someone who has a good product or a good business and tell them, no, good is not good enough. I mean, people are normally very, very passionate about what they're doing. And nobody, it's like it's their baby, and nobody likes to get told that their baby is ugly. I mean, it's just one of those things. So, unfortunately, I'm in the business of telling people that their baby is ugly. So there are certain events that I don't like attending because I've made too many of those statements. So, yeah. So the big point is, if you want to kind of go and raise investment, you need to have, your business needs to be a good investment that fits somebody's mandate. You need to find exactly that kind of match. Then you actually have a good chance. Another thing that you need to know is, a survey was done actually across Africa. A lot of investors were asked, where do you get the deal flow from? And 93% of all deals get done with a network. Meaning you send an email to info@ and kind of go and say, here is my business plan. Hardly ever gives you any result. The point is, so many of those emails get to investors that we simply kind of go and don't have. So the first big screening is actually, can you get someone introduced via the network? And the network is, it's universities, it's professional service providers, the accountants or lawyers that we kind of go and work with. It is the incubators that we work with. It is the general kind of network that we normally do. You kind of go and attend an event like this and somehow manage to kind of go and meet someone who can then go and do an introduction. You go and find an investor, find out who is within their LinkedIn network, and then kind of go and contact a person and ask for some kind of introduction. But it becomes more and more critical that you try to kind of go and get introduced via some kind of personal connection. It makes actually such a significant difference. So just keep this in mind. If you ever want to kind of go and raise funding, somehow try to go and find somebody who knows those investors and make sure that you get introduced in whatever kind of way. The cold emails, unfortunately, hardly ever work. However, I have to go and admit that the one investment that we did into an AI company actually was a company that did exactly this. They sent an email to InfoEd. And by pure chance, I saw this email, and I only going to go and answered them because I just couldn't believe that they made such a rookie mistake. I was like, this company is all over, and they're seriously sending an email to InfoEd. There must be something wrong, and that's why I responded to them, and then we finally invested. So it does once in a while kind of go and happen. So what do investors normally kind of look for? The normal things, of course, we look for a real good investment case. And remember, as investors, it's not our money. We are administering somebody else's money. So we have been told, go and find a company with a very compelling product or service. They have to have a competitive advantage. They need to be doing something better than the other players in the market. The market should be big enough. It needs to be scalable. You need to be able, by putting some money in, to go and make sure that the company actually can go and grow. The funding needs to be for growth, not to kind of go and pay out the entrepreneurs. Sometimes people come to us and saying, well, I've now built this business, but I didn't take a salary for the last 2 years, so can please the first 3 million of the funding go and pay me back my salary? No. Now, okay, it's not going to happen. Tough luck. When we do the big exits and when we all have kind of the multi-millions, by all means take your kind of salary back. But when we kind of go and put money into the business, it really is to kind of go and grow the business and not to kind of go and put it into your bank account. We are looking for strong management teams normally, and of course, some way to kind of go and get returns out of it at some stage. So if you kind of go and want to approach an investor, you need to have those things. However, all of this should not mean that much if you're not really nice people with a great company culture. Because if I look at all the investments that I've made that didn't go well, that failed, they normally didn't fail because the guys were not very, very strong at their technical capabilities. It normally went wrong because of people issues. 2 founders clashing terribly and taking the whole company, taking the whole business kind of on. People who cannot execute, people who can just go and talk but cannot kind of go and do. So the big point is for us, it's very, very important that we kind of go and invest in, as we call it, awesome people who can build a strong company culture around them where everybody is motivated, everybody wants to kind of go into the same direction and really wants to kind of go and take the business to the next level. So we actually go and do the same thing. We make an appointment at the company during our due diligence, like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we pitch at 7:30. Well, to be honest, most of the companies that we kind of invest in, they only start working at like 10 o'clock or so. But you definitely become earlier, and then just see exactly what is the company culture. How do they greet each other? Is everybody laughing, happy to kind of go and be there, or are people just sitting there and not saying a word and feel quite miserable? So it is very, very important. Can the people execute? A lot of people can write very, very nice pitch decks and can write beautiful business plans. They just can't make it happen. They can't do it. So that's one of the things that we really, really going to go and test. And we want to see some proven traction, meaning you set yourself a goal and you could actually kind of go and deliver it and you have some traction, whether it's in development or whether it's in customer, in whatever it is, but we want to go and see some traction. So if you can kind of go and have all of this, then you need to go and tell us all about it. So when you have to kind of go and present to an investor, First of all, you have to go and convince us that the team that you've got is actually the right team. You've got the right skills to go and do what you have to do. You have the right experience to go and do what you say you want to kind of go and do. So industry experience, qualifications, culture, all those things we want to know about. Well then, of course, is there a big enough market, and do you understand your market? That's actually something that we really want to know. I mean, the one thing that we, of course, always hate is Africa, mobile, and the first kind of going slide tells us there are so many Africans, and then there's so many mobile phones, and therefore this is my total market. No, it's not, because it really depends on feature phone versus this phone, and how much can people afford. So you need to be able to go and segment your market. You need to be able to understand your market. So we want to kind of go and see this. What is it that you're offering, and how is it differentiated? How is it different to what others have? And can you really kind of go and articulate this value proposition? Have you got any idea how you can make money? As it, we'll go and just take some ad revenue or something like this. It works for certain companies, but not for all of them. So we want to kind of go and really see how you're planning to make money. And if you don't know how to kind of go and present it, actually, if you get an appointment to kind of go and present, just go and call them and say, well, do you have a template that you kind of go and prefer? And if they have one, use it, because it will tell you exactly kind of the things that they want to kind of go and see. What's also quite important is that you need to go and tell a story. I always find it quite interesting when you kind of go and see people who start presenting and they start talking about just all the technical do's and I mean all the bells and whistles and all the kind of things, but they don't tell me a story. They don't kind of go and tell me really who they are, why they want to kind of go and do this. Also quite important, you need to be able to explain what you're doing in the first minute. Otherwise, you kind of lose your audience and they're trying to figure out exactly what it's all about and kind of never get to it. You need to capture the heart first. You need to kind of go and get your audience to understand what you're doing. They need to go and say, yes, I get it. Then you need to kind of go and start talking about the potential so that the mind starts kind of seeing this. And right at the end, you need to get my greed coming and say, oh, and I can make money out of it. If you go with the money first, but I'm not excited about it, it's not going to go and work. So really try the heart, mind, and wallet kind of sequence. And answer the so what question. Quite often we get told all those absolutely amazing things, what the products can do, and it's all so fancy and whatever. But when I kind of go and sit there and say, okay, so now the product, so now this bottle can turn green and blue and wow, fantastic, but so what? If you can't answer the so what question, then it's a problem. And be real. If you are not the person who walks around in a suit with a black tie, then don't come to that meeting in a suit and black tie. If you are not the person who kind of go and is extremely into numbers, then don't pretend it to be. Then say, you know what, the one weakness that I've got is I don't understand money well. The moment I have your funding, I will immediately employ a CFO who can kind of go and do it all. Be real, show who you are, and because it is going to be a 6, 7, 8 year journey that you have an investor, and you want them to kind of go and invest in you and not who you pretended to be. And that actually comes to the real and last question, and that is, do you really, really want an investor? I think a lot of entrepreneurs think raising money and having an investor is this goal that that's the next thing you have to kind of go and do. And to be very honest, if you can go and start your business, have a business without ever raising money, that's fantastic, well done, and that's actually what you should be trying to do. Just because I'm an investor, I'm really, really not trying to tell you that every business should actually kind of go and raise investment. It comes with a lot of issues. And if you kind of go and give away equity in your business, believe me, that's the most expensive money that you can kind of go and raise. There is sometimes a real reason for it, and that means is if there's a window of opportunity that you have, and if you have access to money, now you can kind of go and close the window, you can just go and execute much faster, then that's the right thing to kind of go and do. But if there's any way to kind of go and do it without raising money, seriously think about it. Because if you kind of go and get an investor in, first of all, you do lose some control. You might actually lose quite a lot of control. Because we put a lot of kind of contracts in there. We tell you, you need our approval for budgets, and you need our approval for this. And if you want to buy a Porsche, then we tell you can't buy a Porsche. There's a lot of things. We have a lot of veto rights, a lot of kind of things. So this whole thing about I wanted to become an entrepreneur because I don't want a boss. Unfortunately, the moment you kind of go and raise money, not saying that the investor will become your boss. No, it's not like this. But they definitely have a lot of influence, and you need to be able to go and live with this. Then we put a lot of protective covenants on there, meaning there's a lot of things, you can't do this, you should this you have to get asked for approval for. There's a lot of little rules and regulations that will kind of go and come and start hitting you, and you need to go and be able to go and live with this. You also really need to understand, most investors will come and promise you that they're adding so much value to your life afterwards. I do that as well. But you need to kind of go and do your homework and find out, A, do you really want this? Do you want this value-adding investor, or do you just want their money and otherwise leave me alone? And if you want their value add, then please go and really do your homework and find out, do they really do it? Speak to their existing investment and really understand, is there value add? Culture clash. You might have a highly conservative investor, and you are just not a conservative kind of company. So make sure that the culture between you and the investor, that they kind of somehow fit. Otherwise, it will be a fight all the time. You want things to go, and you want to kind of go and reward people with higher salaries or higher bonuses. They tell you, no, that's the budget. You can't kind of go and do this. So just understand those things. Is there an alignment of goals? You want to go fast, they want to go slow, or the other way around. Do you understand what does success means? Do you have the same interpretation of what is success? Just go and make sure that you understand this. We all, or you know, that it doesn't matter what kind of plan you're going to go and put together. It's all based on assumptions. And life is not going to happen like this. Things are going to go and change. So the worst thing that can happen to you is if you have an investor who says, well, that was the business plan that we invested in. That's what we signed off. You will now stick to that business plan. Well, but life has changed. Yeah, well, that's what we approved. You will not kind of go and do this. So the last point is actually the most important one is, if you want to kind of go and raise funding, your investors are going to go and do a due diligence on you. You should go and do a due diligence on your investors. Really make sure that, speak to companies, that entrepreneurs that they've previously kind of invested in, best that they're already out of, who really tell you, are those investors, how are they in good times? How are they in bad times? How do they manage you? What's really going to happen? Because a wrong investor can be the most terrible thing that you can even think of. So make sure, if you want to kind of go and get an investor, you get the right one. If you get the right one at the right terms, it can be an absolutely awesome journey. But go and do your homework. And that's it, and I think I stuck to my time. Perfect. Thank you so much.